South. He says he ain't running there no more. So let me start where the leader of the opposition ended. And after all of the things that he went through, from Uber to construction to schools and all of that, he came back and said, I support the bill. In fact, let me read. He says, there's no opposition to upgrade from a Series C to a Series A. It is noble and commendable for the government to do this bill today. So that clearly tells us that this is something positive. There is no division at all with respect to what we are doing today. But hear tune now, Mr. Speaker, hear tune. And you know that's the young people thing. So you know I can show up because at the end of the day, this is something for the young people too. Hear tune, hear tune. Well, I'm catching up. Hear tune now, Mr. Speaker, hear tune. For the honourable member to say, to borrow, that a government is to borrow to invest. And I'm quoting him exactly. A government is to borrow to invest and grow the economy for the benefit of Barbadians. But where was he when the Democratic Party was in office? Where was he? But that is exactly what we have been saying for the last 7 years. If you're going to borrow for an investment opportunity that brings opportunity for growth for the nation. You know, Mr. Speaker, I ask the question. If the Democratic Labour Party was doing so well when they first took the Barbados government and the Barbadian people to CAF, why didn't they go straight to Series A bonds from the beginning? Why didn't they go straight to the opportunity to be able to borrow or access 15% of the balance sheet of CAF? You know why? Because they were not managing the economy well enough to do it at that time. But this Barbados Labour Party administration is managing the economy well enough and has given us the opportunity to be able to get Series A bonds and access 15% of the balance sheet of CAF. That is the critical and most important thing in this bill. And you know, Mr. Speaker, I want to break it down in simple terms. So here, tune. We in Barbados understand the concept of hire purchase. You go down to courts and you bring out the TV. You bring out the washing machine. You bring out the beds. You pay something and then you pay a little bit every month because you're getting the benefit of it even although you're paying for it over time. This is exactly what we will be doing with this opportunity for Series A bonds. Once this bill passes these two houses and a few administrative matters that we have to do, we get the opportunity to be able to access funds at a better and concessional rate. So not only the government, not only the companies, but individuals can benefit from access to those funds. This is a tremendous opportunity. You know, Mr. Speaker, you know sometimes they used to have something here on the radio, opportunity knocks. Opportunity is knocking at Barbados. And we have to grasp that opportunity with both hands. That is what this is. And let me be clear. This is not we are going and borrow money right away. This is not what this is. Many business people understand what's called a line of credit. This is an opportunity should you need it. And you know, Mr. Deputy Speaker, sorry, Mr. Speaker, I'm sorry to demote you, don't want to demote you. You know, Mr. Speaker, at this time, and we have to be very sensitive to what we're seeing happening in Jamaica after the passage of Hurricane Melissa. We have to recognize that you have to have funds in place should something like that befall Barbados. And this gives us that opportunity. So it means, should we have or impacted by a natural disaster, we know that those funds are there that we could use. That is an opportunity, that's an important initiative that this government is taking at the end of the day to protect Barbados and protect Barbadians. It's what we in the business world will call a line of credit. It doesn't mean that you are paying, it doesn't mean that you're borrowing, but you've put everything in place, so should you need it, it is there. That's exactly what we're doing. Should an investment or opportunity come up, we know that that money is there, that we could go and access it quickly. And that's what this is doing. You know, Mr. Speaker, it is clear that the Honourable Member does not understand leverage from a financial point of view. And I'm going to try to explain it. Leverage comes from the word lever. A lever is essentially the use of a fulcrum and a long lever arm. So say, for instance, you wanted to move a boulder. You cannot move the boulder by yourself on your own. But if you put a rock, a smaller rock, and get what we call a lever arm, a 2x4, and wedge the 2x4 under the boulder, but above the small rock, and use your lever action, we call the moment, on the long arm, then you could move the boulder. That is the concept of leverage. When the Democratic Labour Party bought the Series C bonds, the leverage was 4-to-1. We are now upgrading, which means that we got a longer lever arm. We got a better fulcrum. It means that we are now changing that from 4-to-1 to 15-to-1. So from putting down, and let me clear, it is when we buy the bond, it is not money sunk, it is an investment. That means that money put down, so if you have a problem, you could go and get it back plus interest, plus all the dividends over time. So let me be clear. This is absolutely the right and correct thing to do at this time. This is something that gives us immediate access, immediate opportunities to enhance the lives of Bajans by enhancing infrastructure across this country. And I want to get back to something the Honourable Member spoke about with respect to the hospital, because he had a lot to talk about when it came to Harrison Point. Now let me be clear, and let me see if I can explain it in simple terms. Harrison's Point was used as a COVID facility. Let me be clear. Harrison's Point was used as a COVID facility. A COVID facility is not a hospital. A hospital has certain requirements in order to get what we call accreditation. When we asked the experts to go and look at Harrison's Point, they made it, and this is somebody who has 7 hospitals across the world. He made it very clear to us, the way that this facility is built, it would never get accreditation. It would never get accreditation. And the most simple reason, apart from all the other infrastructure things, he said the most simple thing is this, the way it is built, that you'd have to transport patients on the outside from one building to another building to a third building to a fourth building. It would never get accreditation. So his recommendation was, based on how it was designed, it would not be suitable as a hospital. That was it. So because of accreditation problems, so we looked for a better site. The better site is right next to the Queen's Hospital at the old Enmore facility. And that is exactly where the Minister of Health has just gone into the press, showing what we're going to be doing, how we're going to be expanding at the Queen's Hospital, and building a facility that will get accreditation, where everything is essentially within or covered or accessed via a covered bridge. That's what we're going to be doing. And for him to suggest that it would have better been expanded by Gemmett's Lane, I'm going to go back to Jamaica and Black River. When we saw a hospital was destroyed, was significantly damaged, I won't say destroyed, but significantly damaged by storm surge because of its location. And the reason why Gemmots Lane itself was never chosen is because of risk of storm surge, the proximity to the shoreline. Like what happened in Jamaica, you see what happened? They had a major problem at the hospital at Black River because of storm surge. We don't want to find ourselves in that situation. Now, people could argue that you could put things on the second floor like you do at a hotel. With hotels and conference centers, part of the conditions is that accommodations must be above a certain level. But hospitals aren't like that. Hospitals are not that. There are certain pieces of equipment in hospitals that can only be certain things that may give out radiation. Certain things that are required for shielding around the particular piece of equipment that are only recommended or better recommended because of the weight that it adds to the hospital, that are best recommended on the ground floor and cannot be on a higher floor. There are certain reasons why you do not want to have a hospital in a place that would get storm surge. It didn't make sense to go there. But so we had to find a better use for the facility. And that is why we went there. Mr. Speaker, let me be clear. If the leader of the opposition and his party, at the time that they joined us to CAF, could have gone to Series A, they would have. They would have. Because, as you heard from the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central, they immediately spent the $200 million. You know why? They didn't have access to funds. The reason that we're doing this is we wouldn't have to resort to printing money like they did. And that's why they ended up printing money, because they didn't have the access to the funds. They knew that printing money was not the best thing. That's why they went to CAF. But if CAF only gave them a limited $200 million, they had no choice but then to turn around and print money. And not to build something to benefit the economy, but to print money to pay bills. So where was the Honourable Member at that time? Well, I forget. I know where he was. He was a member of the Barbados Party trying to win a seat. So, Mr. Speaker, I also heard the Honourable Member talk about tax. How much tax the people of this country are suffering. But I have to remind the leader of the opposition, when the value-added tax was first introduced to this country, it was 15%, introduced by this administration. When we took out 14 of the taxes and replaced them by the value-added tax. But it is his side in 2010 that added on 2.5% and increased the tax on everybody from 15% to 17.5% and said it was only for the last 6 months. And then 4 months later came back and said, sorry, it's not 6 months, it is now indefinite. The people of Barbados know that we are not being taxed to the level that we were being taxed at the time of the Democratic Labour Party. The people of Barbados know the corporations only now pay 5% tax, when at that time they were paying 14 and 15 and all of that. The people of Barbados know that they get the reverse tax credit, and they weren't getting it before. In fact, we increased it. The people of Barbados know that tax is less than it was under the Democratic Labour Party. And you know, I understand, Mr. Speaker, that there was an assessment done about whether people are feeling the growth of this country. And I heard people say, well, if there wasn't growth, there wouldn't be so much cars on the road. If there wasn't growth, there wouldn't be so much people out there fetting and enjoying themselves. If there wasn't growth, there wouldn't be employment at the highest rate or unemployment at the lowest, whichever side you want to put it on, where more people being employed in Barbados than ever before. But yet still, the Honourable Member suggests to us that nobody ain't feeling the growth. Well, I put it to him that not only are we feeling the growth, but we are enjoying the growth, we appreciate the growth, and we appreciate the work done by the Barbados Labour Party and this administration. And that's what we are doing. We are working hard every single day to make lives better for the people of Barbados. Because when Labour leads, Bajans succeed. When Labour leads, Bajans succeed. So I want to be clear. The honourable member suggests that he is given the truth. But I think he is given his truth. But his truth might not be the truth. The truth of it, Mr. Speaker, is that we are doing an excellent thing with this bill. Even he had to say so. This bill will bring opportunities to people across Barbados. This bill gives an enhancement of growth, an opportunity for growth, for investment, opportunity to build up Barbados and make Barbados better. And the other side can't tell me nothing about growth, because we have had 17 consecutive sections of growth in this country. The other side struggled to get growth, struggled for 10 years to get growth, never went past 1% in all their 10 years. Never. And we're at now 2.7%, trending towards 3.5. So we understand growth. We understand how to get growth. We recognize that you have to borrow to leverage and use that leverage to enhance growth and enhance foreign direct investment in this country. And as you know, Mr. Speaker, the people of this country appreciate what the Barbados Labour Party is doing under the Prime Minister's leadership. You can't go anywhere without people telling you, keep up the good work. All of us. Because every day, in our own way, be it Minister or Member of Parliament, we are pushing to make Barbados better and make lives better for Barbadians. So I want to say clearly, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill. I congratulate the member for Christchurch East Central for bringing it and his presentation. It was clear, it was succinct, it was easy that the average person could understand the benefits. Is it a lot of money? Yes, it is. Is it going to be a long time? Yes, it will be. Will we see benefits? Absolutely. Will there be a definite benefit to the country? Absolutely. Will we see greater improvements in infrastructure? Most definitely. Will it bring opportunity? Of course. Opportunity, you have to grasp it. Grasp it before it gets away and somebody else takes it from your mouth. With those few words, Mr. Speaker, I'm obliged.
Honourable Member for St. James Central.
Mr. Speaker, sir, thank you very much for acknowledging me, and I pledge that I will not be very long. Mr. Speaker, sir, I begin where my friend, the member for Christchurch West, left off, and that is on this question of growth as attributed or introduced into this debate by the Leader of the Opposition. And his argument, if I understand it, sir, is that the government has failed to act in the interest of the average man, and that this is a concern that we have to embrace. Now, I certainly, sir, disagree with him on the view that we have not acted at any time in the interest of the average Barbadian. Quite the contrary, Mr. Speaker, sir. And it is precisely the point about growth that demonstrates that. The Honourable Member for the Opposition, Leader of the Opposition, is self-contradictory. You cannot have an economy which is recording the lowest ever historical level of unemployment, and at the same time say that the economy is functioning in a way that does not embrace the interests of the average man. Well, the people who are working, sir, are in fact the average man and woman. When you go into any business place, sir, you are seeing human beings who are Barbadians working. You are seeing, Mr. Speaker, sir, an increased demand for more labor. We are living in a country, sir, where our biggest concern is shortages of skills in a variety of emerging sectors of the Barbados economy, where we have to try to upskill, uptrain our people, and even when we do so, we still need more, which is why there has been such an urgent need for us to view positively the opportunity of labor coming into Barbados from other sources. It is impossible, therefore, for the argument made by the Leader of the Opposition, sir, to make sense. the very fact that statistically unemployment in Barbados is at its lowest level ever in history means, sir, that the interests of the ordinary man and woman in this country are being satisfied. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, there is a larger problem. And I alluded to it last week, and I have alluded to it before. The rules of this House, or the standing orders of this House, if they were used by the opposition, and I say this, sir, not in any way to get into debate with him, because I think that debate is pointless. I believe, sir, with that particular honourable member, we have now to hope. The only hope really lies in the Almighty and the consistent effort to educate. The rules of this House, Mr. Speaker, make it clear that if an honourable member genuinely wishes to engage the government on a matter that he feels is of significance, that he has within him the right to bring parliamentary questions. This honourable leader of the opposition, Mr. Speaker, sir, resolutely refuses to bring a parliamentary question. He is the only leader of the opposition in the history of Barbados, I believe, that has that record. And yet, Mr. Speaker, sir, he comes here week after week to make imputations against the government and make allegations which are not rooted in fact. And Mr. Speaker, sir, Order 14.2b makes it very clear that if a question contains a statement, the member who asks the question must be prepared to authenticate and substantiate the statement. That perhaps is the reason why he chooses the route he chooses. Because he can stand in his place without asking a question about employment in Barbados and allege falsely that employment in Barbados levels of unemployment in Barbados are sky high. He can stand in his place, as he did today, sir, and allege falsely that taxation levels in Barbados are at their highest ever, when in fact, Mr. Speaker, sir, the level of taxation in Barbados is probably lower than at any time in the history of this country. And sir, the failure to face the music in this House by following the standing orders. Ask your question, give government a reply. If you feel you are on good ground, then when the reply comes, you have a right to supplementary questions. Confront the government with that which you say you have. No, that is not being done, sir. The House, in my judgment, sir, is on a weekly basis now being abused by a lazy mind and a lackadaisical attitude, which is not seeking to do justice or any interest to the well-being of the public. But rather, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are used, sir, as a place for theatre and the peddling of empty allegations and abundance of nonsense. On the question of loans, Mr. Speaker, sir, the leader of the opposition makes heavy weather about loans. This piece of legislation is not about loans. This piece of legislation, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I will go into more deeply, is about building the capacity, or as the member who just preceded me very excellently put it, sir, the investment opportunity for this country, so that we ought not to be in a position where we were in 2018 ever again, where we are confronted with hard times that afflicted the country between 2013 and 2018, and when a government at that time, sir, floundered to the point where the worst possible loan in the history of Barbados, I say again, sir, the worst loan in the history of Barbados was taken out by the Democratic Labour Party administration, which is no worse than the bullet loan. I'm talking about the Credit Suisse loan. The Credit Suisse loan, sir, for 450 million United States dollars, nearly $500 million United States dollars, that had that deadly clause inserted into it, which said that if the interest rates rise, the interest rate on the loan would rise with every downgrade. And the history, sir, was that that government had downgrade after downgrade after downgrade, and the interest, sir, rose and rose and rose. And it was for us to inherit that, Mr. Speaker. I speak in this way because it is necessary to set the record straight. I don't speak in this way, sir, in the hope that the leader of the opposition, who has fled the chamber again, who has used this chamber, sir, as a place to point fingers, cast aspersions, to the extent, sir, that he can evade your very watchful and careful ear and supervisory eye, filling innuendos across the floor of the House, and then, sir, escapes, runs off to wherever it is that he goes to hide, and don't want to face a reply, sir. I don't expect much of him, but the record of this House, sir, has to be made pure and must reflect that these things are part of the history of this place. The Credit Suisse loan was a disgrace and a disaster, sir, and the last entity on planet Earth that should be giving direction and lectures to the government about what loans should and could look like should be the Democratic Labour Party. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, if there's one thing that I believe even the leader of the opposition would be prepared to agree on is this, that as the Honourable Member for Christchurch West just pointed us to, we have a lot to learn from and a lot to think about with respect to what happened to Hurricane Melissa 1 week ago. And indeed, Beryl 1 year ago, Mr. Speaker, sir. It was Melissa 7 days ago, and it would have been Beryl 1 year and a couple months ago. And in both of those cases, Mr. Speaker, sir, Jamaica was struck. And woe betide us if ever Barbados had to face that kind of onslaught in 2 years in succession. Now, Mr. Speaker, it is true, therefore, that this region has a very dangerous exposure to climate shocks. Let us be candid, sir. This is, in large measure, what we are here to try to protect Barbados from. To build the capacity, Mr. Speaker, sir, to deal with some of the climatic shocks and the consequences that flow from them. Now, if there's another thing that perhaps we can all agree on, is that the government of Barbados has spent a lot of effort. And I would be the first to admit, sir, perhaps it is unprecedented in the history of this country. I do not know of any prime minister, sir, who has worked so hard, who has, yes, traveled the world, trying to build alliances, Mr. Speaker, sir, speaking, sir, to the World Bank, speaking to the IMF, speaking, Mr. Speaker, sir, to leaders of the globe, whether it's the Canadian government's leader, the American government's leader, the French government's leader, the British government's leader, the European Union's leadership, Mr. Speaker, sir, the world, the developing countries of the world. She has spared no effort. I have stood by her side in South Africa as she has raised this issue, Mr. Speaker, sir, all around the world, trying to make sure that Barbados's voice could be heard and be at the thought leadership effort for small island economies like ours to benefit from what can only be called a crisis toolkit. A toolkit, sir, a policy toolkit that small islands like Barbados could benefit from. When the minister who is responsible for the environment, Mr. Speaker, sir, is confronted with circumstances as he was last year with Hurricane Beryl, when 80 or close to 90% of the fishing fleet in Barbados is destroyed without a dollar in budgeting having been put there for the replacement, Barbados goes into a state of abject and absolute panic. How do we keep the fisher folk and the community alive? And by extension, how do we feed ourselves, Mr. Speaker, sir? And we had then, on top of that, to deal with the destruction to the Bridgetown Harbour. And out of a clear blue sky, after one climatic event that would have lasted probably 5 or 6 hours, if so much, we then had to find 150 million United States dollars, sir, in order to do repair work. And the reason why the Prime Minister has made the effort, it is a simpleton's argument to say that she's flying out too much, full stop. What is it that she is attempting to do? And I go back to the parliamentary question. Because if it is that you really wanted to engage the country sensibly, you would be asking the Prime Minister to report by way of parliamentary question on the achievements. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are at a point where we have come to try to work with the rest of the world to position Barbados as that voice in the developing world, which is trying to pull everybody together to seriously discuss this matter of what is the appropriate policy interventions when once we are confronted with these shocks to our economy as a result of climatic activity, and indeed as a result of a pandemic, which has also been the experience of this government, which we had to work our way through. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, in addition to that, we have pulled together what can only be called an understanding, a framework by some like-minded countries on what the crisis response should look like. That is now the business of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. That we go out there and we find like-minded states. The small island developing states have an association, sir, where we are working together. There is a group, sir, called the V20. Really 74 countries now because we have enlarged it so rapidly. But they're all of like mind, sir, looking at this intersection between the question of the debt that we carry as small islands and small states, sir, and the intersection between that debt responsibility, because we got to pay back the people the debt, and equally, Mr. Speaker, sir, the need for us to be able to respond to the financing demands when once we become victim of the climate issues. This is not about profligacy and reckless expenditure. That, therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, becomes a matter about which we are engaging the world with respect to the very same thing that the leader of the opposition seems not to gather, that we are talking about the average man and how he or she may be embraced. And I don't believe that the leader of the opposition doesn't get it. I believe, sir, that he comes here with a different errand in his heart and in his mind, a different intent, that is to mislead and to misguide the people of this country who may listen to him. Now, Mr. Speaker, when we talk about the crisis response, we are saying that when Hurricane Melissa, for example, hit Jamaica, the government of Jamaica had the next day to be thinking, first of all, Mr. Speaker, sir, about public health. Hospital, as you just heard from my learned friend, sorry, the honourable member, my learned friend is really a term of art, sir, to refer to those of us who have been called to the bar. My friend has not been called to any bar. He may have spent his sometimes, may have, on occasion spend a little time at a social bar where he would be imbibing one or two beverages. But Mr. Speaker, sir, the point is this. He made reference, and properly so, to Black River in Jamaica and the hospital that was virtually demolished. And Mr. Speaker, sir, that is a public health issue for Jamaica. And there are other hospitals in Jamaica that were damaged as well. And Mr. Speaker, this is the lived reality of countries like ours. It would be a reckless and irresponsible government that year after year, as so many others in the history of Barbados have done. Well, let us be very real now, because what we have to deal with is the IOU that we have for the people who sent us here. And we cannot offer them, sir, a perpetual bounce check. We have a duty to the people who sent us here, sir, to build the resilience of this economy, which means hardening the infrastructure. I have sat in this place, sir, and I have ached. I have ached from head to toe at the level of ignorance that was tossed around this floor when I heard the leader of the opposition make light of the word resilience, laugh to scorn the concept of sustainability in the Barbados economy, say that these are catchwords. He did it last week, Mr. Speaker. As recently as last week, a man who stands at first slip, theoretically, in the constitutional arrangements of Barbados, that a government could drop in his lap. In other words, some boy edge, and a government drop in his lap. And a man who would have responsibility for over 260,000 living, breathing Barbadian souls could be so indifferent and narrow-minded as to be saying that the ideal of hardening the infrastructure in this country, which is what we call building resilience, is something to laugh to scorn. That a man, sir, standing and for a slip in constitutional terms, sir, could talk about sustainability across our economy as being something unnecessary. Let us begin with the public health. He wants to understand how it impacts on the interests of the average man and woman. Had Hurricane Beryl last year, Mr. Speaker, sir, done the damage to the hospital, Queen Elizabeth Hospital, that it did to the Bridgetown Harbour, the question would be asked, what do we do with the 200 odd or 300 people in the beds in that hospital? And where are we to put them? How do we look after them, sir? And it is the duty of a government in today's world to be so forward-thinking that it plans and it projects, and yes, sir, it works out the financial arrangements that have to be put in place in order for that infrastructure, sir, to be hardened and made more resilient. It isn't only in public health, Mr. Speaker, sir. We see it every day in education. No, I don't know if you come across it in your constituency, but I have been called in mine. That the primary school students, minister, they would like you to bring up a couple of fans because the classroom hot. Children can't study because the classroom is hot. Hotter now than it was when we were little boys, sir. And if you look around the parliament today, count the number of us who are attired not in the suit and tie of the colonial, former colonial master, sir, but those of us who are wearing a more comfortable form of garb. I see at least 5 in the room. Because, sir, of the heat in Barbados. But the little children sitting down in a classroom stewing, Mr. Speaker, sir. And we have to find the resources, whether this country's opposition is prepared to tell the people so or not. We have to find the resources, sir, to embrace those average Barbadian man and woman children and put them in a position where their classrooms are more comfortable. And it may well mean, therefore, that there has to be a lot of physical infrastructure being revisited in order to make sure that there's an environment in which our little children are not so hot that they drop into sleep, can't study because they're uncomfortable, because of the change in the climate. And you and I know, Mr. Speaker, sir, it has always been hot in the Caribbean. You and I would have studied under a dunch tree sometimes. I know I did. Go outside and study under the tree. But in today's world, it is also true to say that outside hotter than ever it was, and the song that Third World sang 96 degrees in the shade, sir, is more true than ever before. Cause under the tree hot too. Huh? Mr. Speaker, sir, it isn't only in education, sir. It is in housing. That we are a government, sir, that is now introducing to this country. And yes, there will always be challenges. Yes, we are building out a sector from the ground up when we talk about renewable energy. From the ground up. But Mr. Speaker, sir, there is only one government in the Caribbean that is having a serious conversation with its people about the need to put photovoltaics on every new house that you could get put on so that the people of the country can have access to cheaper renewable energy. Mr. Speaker, sir, there's only one government, and it is this one. And there's only one party in Barbados, and it is this one. So the question should not be asked why it is that these things are happening, and why it is, sir, that we are discussing these things. The question should be, why is it that the Democratic Labour Party has not come to the dance? I go further, Mr. Speaker, sir. The agricultural sector. He talks about acting in the interest of the average man. When we talk about this kind of financing, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are talking about the way in which the government of Barbados will find the assistance in order to ensure that ordinary Barbadian men who raising some chickens in a chicken coop, Mr. Speaker, sir, in a country where we lost 10,000 birds last year because of heat exhaustion, that we can now so restructure that which we do in our poultry industry, that will be a thing of the past. In a country, Mr. Speaker, sir, where we have to deliver water to our people. In parishes, sir, where I believe it was 2 years ago or a year and a half, we had to declare to the country that you must conserve. Special conservation efforts had to be put in place because there were 8 parishes in Barbados that were facing drought. 8 parishes in Barbados, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I think it's Dr. Wansa, that his name is. Come and say, sir, that when he went down in the reservoir, that he's a short man, that the water is below his knee level. These are issues, sir, that I don't hear the opposition talk about. It is as though they believe that you just go into the public space, keep a lot of noise, insult whoever you care to insult, make no contact whatsoever with developmental policy for this country, find fault with the Prime Minister because she is leading a global cause on behalf not only of Barbados, but all states that are confronted with this tragedy. A tragedy that we didn't start, sir, but we are impacted by it, and we can't turn away from it. What happened to Jamaica with Melissa last week could have been us, it could have been Dominica, it could have been Grenada. In fact, sir, it could have been a number of us as it went up the island chain.
That's right.
As has happened before. A country, sir, which today has 400,000 people homeless. That is almost twice the population of Barbados. And I grieve, sir, I grieve, because better has always been expected of an opposition, and better has always been delivered by even the worst of our oppositions in history. And Mr. Speaker, sir, I don't have even to mention the idea, because you know there's so many sectors. I don't know that there's any sector in this country that is not impacted by what it is that we're trying to discuss here today. The civil aviation sector that we are now rebuilding. You want to build out a whole new set of activities around Grantley Adams International Airport when you know that one hurricane, sir, can leave your airport completely useless, underwater, damaged, sir, and in need from rebuilding from ground up again. And this has been the cycle that we have seen in the Caribbean year after year. At some point, leaders had to pause. And I feel happy and proud, sir, that it is the leader of Barbados and the leader of the Barbados Labour Party that took stock of this situation and said, look, let us pause, because we are facing a cyclical process where every year we face the destruction. A couple of us might get away, some of us are totally devastated, and we build back. And then by the next year or the year after, everything let down again, and you've got to build back again. How then do you look after the development of your people? So an integral part of the political development and the political discourse of this country, sir, has to be how we finance our way out of the climate tragedy that we are, a climate crisis and tragedy that we are facing. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have worked with like-minded states, as I say. We have worked with middle-income developing states. We have worked, sir, with the World Bank in particular. We have worked with the IMF, sir, on climate financing options. And this is where this particular matter becomes extremely relevant. Because, Mr. Speaker, sir, traditional partners like the World Bank are perhaps today not as reliable as they used to be many years ago. And we have come to understand, sir, in the life of this administration alone, let me tell you where we have gone, or remind you, because I know you know. I believe the leader of the opposition has forgotten, and I hope the people within earshot of my voice have not forgotten. Mr. Speaker, sir, it was this government that led a global charge under something called an idea, a set of ideals worked through and offered to the world for their opinion and their input, called the Bridgetown Initiative, in which, sir, we were able to achieve success at the level of the World Bank by way of having disaster pause clauses being inserted into loans that may be given to any state, not just Barbados, sir, to any small island developing state. That is not leadership only of Barbados. That is thought leadership now impacting the world, the developing world. And what was it? That if a hurricane come through or some similar calamity, then, sir, the debt that you owe, you pause, and for a period of 2 years, government is allowed to have the financial flexibility to build back the hospital, the financial flexibility to make sure the airport runway is repaired, that you can have planes landing on it. There was a hurricane the name of which I cannot now remember, sir, that was so badly damaged in Antigua. The airport in Antigua was damaged, it may have been Maria, when a 20-foot container was picked up by the wind, sir, and bounced along the tarmac. Break it up. 20-foot iron container. Break up the tarmac, Mr. Speaker, sir. Bam, 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 going down the tarmac. No plane can land there for months. You know, we get on as though these are not lived realities. And so therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, the policy intervention that was structured coming out of Barbados in the Bridgetown Initiative is that you pause. You say, look, yes, we owe you this debt, and we can pay, but let us pause repayments here for a period of time, and let us deal now with how we get the economy back on track, because to honor the debt obligations means that we got to choose between the debt commitment and feeding the people of the country. Choose between the debt commitment and making sure the little children could go to school. Choose between the debt commitment and making sure that there could be traffic on the roads and that the hotels could reopen, Mr. Speaker, sir, so that business could resume. An impossible choice. But we carried that message to the world successfully, and the World Bank bought into it under President Biden. I'm going to be very real with the country today. Not satisfied, in the last budget that came here, the Minister of Finance, not the substantive minister, the Prime Minister herself, but the minister in the ministry, you know, remember for Christchurch, East Central, would have come here and talked this house through a thing called CAT-DDOs, D as in Delta, Catastrophe Deferred Drawdown Options. And the Catastrophe Deferred Drawdown Option, Mr. Speaker, sir, is a form of contingent financing, which enables government to get almost immediate access to a predetermined sum of money on meeting the criteria that a certain type of disaster has impacted you. Today, Jamaica is able, through that process, to be able to access $150 million, much needed US dollars, to start their restoration work. We came here in the last budget, sir, and we had that discussion. It didn't say that the leader of the opposition was not present. I believe he replied to the budget without making any contact with it, but he was present. And Mr. Speaker, sir, the only condition then, as far as the World Bank was concerned, at that time, was that there be some oversight, Mr. Speaker, with regard to our macroeconomic policy, and that we have a domestic program in place with regard to climate management and public health, because it is a facility that is also available to you if you have a public health crisis, for example, the COVID pandemic. And Mr. Speaker, sir, we brought a stormwater management bill to this place and passed it as part of the criteria that we had to use to satisfy the World Bank's oversight with regard to our commitments in this regard. And the government of St. Vincent last year with Beryl, if he's paying any attention to these matters at all, would have brought, sir, a disaster management bill so that they too could do a similar thing. And Mr. Speaker, sir, that was as recently as last year. But you know what happened a couple of weeks ago, sir? Let me tell you what happened a couple of weeks ago, which is why bills like this today are absolutely critical and indispensable. Because a couple of weeks ago, in August of this year, or was it September, the White House sent out a notification saying to Barbados and to others in the developing world that the partnerships that we thought we could have with the United States funded agencies is no longer going to exist. And so, for example, United States AID, USAID, says, look, the $400 million that you thought was going to be available to have a blue-green bank in Barbados, that will enable us, sir, to be able to finance a lot of the resilience that we need for our shoreline protection, the resilience we want to have for our schools, so the school children be in better condition, the resilience in our public health service, the resilience, Mr. Speaker, sir, in so many areas of our economy. Mr. Speaker, sir, no. Don't mind that you want that resilience in your agriculture sector. The White House is telling you, we cut in that $400 million because It is climate related, and that is not a core mission any longer. Now, it may not be a core mission for them, but it is an existential issue for us. Existential meaning it is on that turns the ability for Barbadians, all, man, woman, and child, to live or die, to thrive or die in this society. That is what this is about, Mr. Speaker. And there's a willfulness about the opposition that they will not make contact with this matter. But it ain't only at that point, Mr. Speaker, because shortly after that, and I believe you heard the member who piloted this bill today make reference to it, the World Bank has been now indicating to us since last week, or last, this October now? This November now? Last month. Since last month, Mr. Speaker, sir, that they are compelled, again by the United States government, to take an all-encompassing approach to energy financing. And that means that burning fossil fuels must continue as far as the United States government is concerned. Coal should burn. Oil should be pumped, Mr. Speaker, and utilized. And that the renewable energy effort is not a core mission of the IMF, it is not a core mission of the World Bank, and that could put one side. So our whole development trajectory, sir, is being compromised by the largest power on the planet, who has, or which has a philosophical outlook that does not align with our developmental trajectory and developmental interests and the concept we have of how we can finance our well-being. So the World Bank alliance that we thought we had with the catastrophe deferred drawdown. The World Bank alliance that we thought we had, sir, when we said we can pause debt obligations to meet the financial commitments arising out of an unanticipated climate shock or an unanticipated public health crisis, Mr. Speaker, sir. That they're so being swept aside before our very eyes. And then we are told, sir, that on top of it, that the bank is being now told that they have to remove 45% of their 45% climate co-benefit targets. The World Bank had co-benefit targets with countries like ours. No, shut down those co-benefit targets. Put them one side too. The bank is not going to benefit as far as that administration is concerned. And where does it leave us, Mr. Speaker, sir? It means that the reality is that we are now being told that the bank, the World Bank that is, has new priorities. Priorities that don't align with the government of Barbados. Priorities that don't align with the islands of the Caribbean. Priorities that don't align with the islands of the Pacific, some of which today are disappearing underwater because of rising sea levels in the Pacific. Where thousands of people have already had to flee countries in the Pacific and are now stateless. I want you to understand, you were born in an island. You thought you carried the passport of that island. Now, sir, there are stateless inhabitants in Australia or in New Zealand. That is the reality. And in all of this that is afflicting the countries like ours, we have a Democratic Labour Party, Mr. Speaker, sir, that remains absolutely silent. Tongues cleaved collectively to the roofs of their mouths, as though this is something that they must not talk about and the people of Barbados should never be educated on. No, sir, I cannot be part of that. I cannot be part of that. No, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the 1 minute that is left to me, I want to say that that is why we need, therefore, to have a bill like this that carves out a new space, that we can stand as a truly independent country and say, look, yes, you may not want to help us, but we are determined not to die. And so, therefore, it can cost us some money, but we will increase the share ownership in, or the share interest in the CAF, the Latin American Caribbean Bank. And Mr. Speaker, sir, through that share interest, we can access as much as $18 billion in financing for development purposes. We meaning the private sector in Barbados, as well, sir, as the public sector in Barbados. We meaning, Mr. Speaker, sir, the business people in Barbados who have an interest in doing resilient investment and sustainability investment, and many do. And, sir, the government of Barbados, which is determined that we must rebuild this economy in a more, and society, in a more resilient and sustainable manner in order to confront the damage and the crisis of our environment, which we didn't cause. The big polluters of the planet are not found in the Caribbean. They're the people, sir, who are controlling the policy at the World Bank, though. They're the people who are controlling the policy. And we say, Mr. Speaker, sir, that it is out of an interest in future-proofing the country, future-proofing the well-being of our young people, that we take this policy posture in order to look after that generation that was up here in the parliamentary gallery today. And Mr. Speaker, sir, it is that and only that this is about. And the tragedy in it all is that this should be a point at which there's a bridge between the opposition and the government, and that we as Barbadians, noble, true, and proud, would say, look, this is something we must do for the well-being of this country, because without this, sir, there is no protection given to anybody when Mother Nature decides to do whatever Mother Nature may decide to do next week, next month, next year, or whenever God, sir, forgive me for saying, sir, we are entirely at Mother Nature's discretion. And we cannot simply abide by that. We must govern, and we must govern in the interest of protecting our people. And that is what this bill is about. I'm obliged to you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for St. James South.
Honourable members who have spoken so far, who've sought to use this platform to try to educate Barbadians on the reality of what small nations like us face as members of the world, and that the struggle out there is great for us to be able to build out our economies and to provide for our people, to be able to provide the necessary housing, the jobs, the schools, the healthcare. All of these things come with a struggle. And this bill today helps to position Barbados to be a full member of a group where it will have access to the type of financing that it is going to need if it is going to ensure that our economy grows and can withstand the numerous shocks that have been coming on the world economic table. So I want to just take a moment to explain why the formation of CAF would have occurred, and a number of other development institutions that have been formed outside of the regular ones that we have been accustomed to for some time. It has to do with understanding how the world table of countries, how it is organized into a food chain. We have 193 countries, 38 of which are developed nations, nations who have been able to build strong economies and have a level of dominance in terms of trade and in terms of their own economic growth. Then you've got, out of those 193 countries, you have what we call the Asian tigers in the Middle East. You have other developing countries and SIDS like ourselves, and then you also have lower income countries that struggle to be able to give their citizens some form of life, some form of sustained life. And the question that we have to ask is, how did this chain emerge, that arrangement? And what is it that makes it so difficult for small countries like ours, especially the SIDS, to be able to make a living in challenging circumstances? Now, sir, many of those developed nations were able to establish wealth by the dominant positions that they established over the world order. And what were some of the things that enabled them to build a situation where they continue to grow and develop wealth? One, through colonization, they were able to get access to the raw materials to feed their manufacturing, which then was able to feed their trade. And what was the beauty of that? You bought the inputs at very low prices, you did your manufacturing and took it to a higher level, and then you sell it back to those same countries that you may have taken the raw materials from at a much higher price than you've ever paid them for those raw materials. And so those countries remain constantly in deficit, constantly in debt, constantly struggling to provide a living because they don't have control over their own raw materials. That's one of the first elements of the dominance of these developed countries. The second thing is, having made money from this, they were able to set up the financing structures that also give them dominance. And so they're able to control lending and the terms of lending. They're able to control the processing. So for example, when we were having challenges with correspondent banking, it made it difficult for small nations like ours to complete the processing of payments to buy goods and services across the earth. And what this was in an attempt to do, one, the banks were trying to protect themselves, but the end result was that it was shutting us out from being able to do trade and to be able to be paid when we did trade. Then you have the investment structure, where you actually have rules and regulations that talk about what are the terms and conditions for investments. And ideally, what some of these developed nations want is for investments to come into countries where they don't have any responsibility, where they don't pay taxes, where they don't give good basic pay to people, etc. And then they want every concession under the sun from these governments so that they're able to operate in a way that they could not operate at home. And so these countries remain disadvantaged within this world structure. Then the other three areas that they create dominance in, and therefore laid the foundation by which we needed to find ways for developing countries to escape, the other three areas is the area of transport. They control the ports, they control shipping, they control air cargo. And so the end result is that they could sit and decide to squeeze, and that is what Barbadians have been experiencing. While Barbadians have experienced lower taxes in this country as a result of what this government has done in an effort to put more money in the pockets of Barbadians, and then to help them face the issue of rising prices, shipping across the world in the last 5 to 7 years has caused an escalation in the inflationary prices that Barbadians have been facing, and has made it impossible. So they don't feel the benefit of the tax reform and the tax reduction because the rising prices snatches all of that away. And we continue to fight to be able to deal with that. But that comes from that control over transport. And then the media, having dominance in terms of being able to put information out any part of the globe, and to be able to influence the thinking and the tastes and the types of products and services that you put before the eyes of the people of the world, helps them to maintain that dominance in terms of creating markets for their goods. And here's what happens to their economies. Their economies have grown strong, and because they've grown strong, they've been able to provide for their domestic needs, but now they need other places to sell those goods because they can now produce even more than what they can consume. So that the nations of the world now are important, not just for raw materials, but they're important as consumption sectors. And you can literally divide the world between production sectors and consumption sectors. And as long as we do not have the capacity to get funds to invest in building out our manufacturing, building out our education, we will continue to be consumers of the producers of this world. So if you look, here are a few facts for people to understand. As massive as the American economy is, $3 trillion worth of exports every year. Germany, 2 trillion, UK, 1 trillion, France, 1 trillion, Netherlands, 1 trillion. They earn money by our consumption in this part of the world. So the question then that Barbadians have to ask themselves is this: in whose interest is it, therefore, for those of us who are in the lower section of the food chain, in whose interest is it for us to build productive capacity, to have access to the types of funds that will allow us to expand our manufacturing and to be able to take care of our families in our countries. Sir, the only one with the greatest interest for us has to be us. Because, as was well explained by the member for St. James Central, the hostile nature of the behaviors, the decisions that are being taken in whether it's the IMF or the World Bank or wherever, that does not create the environment for small nations like ours or to respond to our particular needs. That is the reality that we are facing. So it means that small nations like ours have to find new ways to be able to carve out opportunity for our people. Now, what does that mean? It means that a young man living in my constituency who has developed taking renewable materials, he's taken waste and has now shaped it into concrete blocks, not concrete blocks, but blocks for building. He's full of hope. He is full of passion. He feels that his blocks could become a part of the Barbadian construction mix and that it has life beyond Barbados that it can export. But where is he going to find the funds to be able to build out a manufacturing plant that will allow him to mass produce and therefore be able to become part of the world's trading groups? Sir, the only hope for a young man like him and his product lies with CAF, lies with a Frexim Bank. Because those are the only two friendly places that a person like him can have the opportunity to borrow, to take a dream that he has created a product that works for climate resilience, that works for climate change, and he will only have opportunities within those two institutions. This is part of the issue. This is part of the problem. And why is this important? Because our current reality as a country is that we only export something like $1 billion worth of exports from this country. But we actually import $4.3 billion into this country. That means that there is a lot of room for manufacturing growth in this country, but that can only happen if we have access to finance, reasonable finance, that would support our young entrepreneurs. And that is why our becoming members of CAF, not only to provide access for the public sector and public sector activities, but also access for private sector as well. The only way out for developing countries and SIDS is for us to make sure that we are part of development institutions that respond to our needs. And that is why Barbados has chosen to broaden its participation by being a full member of CAF. And what will that provide for us? Not only the opportunity for investment in private and public, but it then allows us to add other things to make Barbados attractive, so that the monies that we borrow from a CAF, the monies that we borrow from a Frexim Bank, can then be converted into genuine opportunity that will attract jobs that our young people need. So this is why we have Business Barbados. Business Barbados has been established to allow Barbados to be able to be a first-class destination that properly supports inward investment, so that we have access to funds to build out the new types of industries, the new types of operations that will give our students at UE, our students at SJPI and BCC, the opportunity to work for good money in a job where they can utilize their skills, But in order for that to happen, not only to attract the investment, the preparation of our young people to fit those investment opportunities then is important. And that is why educational reform is so critical. And this is why the Honourable Member for St. James North and myself, the Honourable Member for St. James South, why we've been entrusted with the task of taking education and transforming it so that we can create young people who are reskilled in the new skills that are needed, and to also take our current working population and even our early retirees to upskill and reskill them so that they can participate in the opportunities coming out of our investment. And this is important. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I was very concerned when I heard the Honourable Member for Christchurch South pontificating at length, deluding himself and those whom he can gather to tell them that Barbados has done nothing for schools, that when we borrow all this money, we have not done anything for schools. For his information, for the information, sir, of the rest of the country, in this year, work has been done on 45 schools in this country, ranging from repairs, bathroom upgrades, the construction of prefabricated classrooms, doing roof repairs, repairing auditoriums, doing fencing repairs and installation of security stuff, doing lighting improvements. This is ongoing work that the Ministry of Educational Transformation has undertaken in order to upgrade our school plants for our children, so that the lovely young people who were here this morning can be in a school where the environment is pleasant. But where does that come from? That money has to be borrowed, and it comes from development banks like CAF, comes from a Frexim Bank, comes from the IDB and other places. And that is one of the reasons why we have to make sure that we are in good standing, that we are managing our financial affairs properly, so that we can gain those loans that will allow us to make the types of improvements in our education so that we can prepare our young people for the investment which is to come, so that we can build out our economy and not find ourselves constantly as consumers of products from the outside, but that we can be producers of both goods and services that can capture the imagination of other people. In the tertiary education section, sir, we are sitting already making plans to work with the same CAF, that development bank, in order to build and expand our capacity for tertiary education. And why is this important? Every year, sir, close to 2,000 young people are unable to get into our tertiary institutions because of restrictions of space. The question is, when they do not get in to a tertiary institution, where do they go? And sir, all too often, some of them fall by the wayside. All too often, they become victims of people who want to engage them in activities that will destroy their lives. So what does a responsible government do? Do you wait until you earn all the money to gradually change your schools and expand access to your tertiary education? Or do you go out and do some responsible borrowing and invest in the critical infrastructure that is necessary to make sure that the young people of Barbados have hope, that they have skills, and that through our investment strategy, they are able to find interesting jobs to do that will give them a good and a decent pay? Because without that decent pay, they'll never combat the high cost of living. So that is what this government has done. CAF will be working with us to help us expand access at the tertiary level. And what we will be able to do is to absorb all of our children who want a tertiary education. But more than that, we are also planning that we create an education economic sector, that we can sell educational services to people across CARICOM and other parts of the world, so that the money we invest in building capacity, we can use it to earn, so that we can ensure that there is a future for our children. And what will that result in? It will give us the necessary productive capacity that we need. No, sir, I was disturbed, to put it mildly, because I believe that when you want to come to political office, you have to be serious. You have to prepare. You have to study. If you do not understand the dynamics of small island states, if you do not understand the world dynamics, then you will get up and mislead hundreds of people into believing that the presence of a Frexim Bank is the giving away of a couple acres of land, and that could have been used to do something else. It was repeated again today in this chamber, Mr. Speaker, and it shows how out of touch the honourable member is with the reality of what it takes to build the Barbados of the future. CAF, as was shared earlier by the honourable member for Christchurch East Central, is primarily 23 Latin American countries, and then you have some Caribbean countries and 1 or 2 other Spanish-speaking countries that are members, because they are looking to provide a pool of resources that can be made available to their countries to help build them out, and at the same time earn by being able to provide that same funding to us. Africa has done the same. If we are going to break out of the stranglehold that has been put on transport, on raw materials, on the media, on financing, and to be able to build our economies that our young people will have a chance, then it is imperative that they form some kind of development bank institution to be able to give their enterprises a chance and their economy a way to grow. And a Frexim Bank is no different. A Frexim Bank, Honourable Mr. Speaker, was developed to help with intra-African trade, so that they build more trade among the African countries. What the African countries have said is that they want to recognize us as the 6th section of Africa, being part of their diaspora. They also want to look at trade outside of Africa. And so with their headquarters that they have in Egypt, what they have decided to do, they want to begin to spread abroad. And they decided that the place where they were going to put their first bank outside of Africa was going to be Barbados. And why is this important to us? Sir, if people make a living and keep building trillions and trillions of dollars by controlling the shipping, controlling the financing, controlling the raw materials, etc., do you think that they are about to give us capacity to get ships? Do you think that they're about to give us capacity to expand our ports? Are they about to give us the capacity to expand our education? Not in this particular world. Maybe in another world. But in the world in which we live, that is not their priority. And sir, it means therefore that it was in the best interests of the dreams, in the best interests of the desires of Barbadians who want to be able to see more happen in their lives, to have better education for their children, to have better health care, better roads, better housing, to know that their housing is protected during a storm because we've been able to build resiliently, that we've been able to sort out the water problem so that they're sure when they turn a tap that water is coming out. For those people, the presence of a Frexim Bank is absolutely necessary to allow us to get the financing, to invest in transport, to invest in digital infrastructure, to invest in the development of small and medium enterprises, to invest in climate resilient projects. Sir, absolutely important. Exactly. What else would you have done with the spot, and who else would you have engaged to be able to provide us with the wonderful opportunity that a Frexim Bank is going to present to us? And I've already said, sir, that a Frexim Bank is not only coming and establishing its center here, it's going to bring a hotel. They're going to take monies and they're going to put it into the planning games program that we have, that we can actually improve the lives of people who will be around the bank. And they are going to have a trade center that is going to allow people to come and go, to engage them, to look at trade. And Barbados has the opportunity, by being the host country, to be in the midst of that and seeking to make the necessary presentations so that we can build out a Barbados that we've never seen before. We've come from sugar. We've come from a little light manufacturing. We've come from financial services. We've come from tourism. To diversify the Barbadian economy is going to take money, is going to take education, is going to call for infrastructure. And the only way to get it, sir, is to borrow and invest wisely so that you make back that money, that you can pay off that loan, but you have increased the capacity of the country to diversify itself and create new types of enterprises that can take Barbados into the future. So, sir, I do not have time for people who do not understand that, who put themselves forward for political office and do not have any intention of understanding our needs, educating our people, and taking the necessary hard decisions that are required to make this country work. We've had to take hard decisions, sir, and we will take them, because at the center of our heart is the well-being of every single Barbadian. That is why we are in office. That is why we are here. That is why we work the way we do. So we want to encourage. There are a couple of things, and I'm going to finish with this. Mr. Speaker, our plans, wonderful as they are, will not work unless the Barbadian people help to engage it. And let me speak to two sections of the Barbadian public. One, sir, would be enterprises. Unfortunately, there are a number of enterprises in Barbados that have stayed in this country, not looking to expand and go out into CARICOM, as hard as the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade works to get CARICOM working, using COTED to be able to put all the different agreements in place to open up the space for them to move. There are some who are just satisfied to look at the Barbadian public and simply raise the cost of an item that they have not improved, that has not brought any greater value. So the Barbadian is no better off. They're just paying more for the same thing. It has to stop. We need our enterprises to understand that we cannot just be comfortable sitting in a handful of markets, buying our products from them. When you do that, you create a dependency that people can choke you. You must diversify your markets. You have to be looking at Latin America for goods. You have to be looking at CARICOM for goods. You have to be looking at Africa for goods. We have to start and do that so that we're able to keep our economy more stable, because we're not dependent on one or two markets that can choke us if they want to. The second group, sir, that I need to speak to is our civil service. They are so key to the success of this strategy by the speed at which they execute whatever it is. Whether it's processing things at the port, whether it's issuing licenses, whether it's doing inspections, whether it is issuing certificates, whether it's clearing goods, building hospitals, repairing schools. Extremely important that as we borrow this money from CAF, as we get access to the financing, the speed at which we use those funds and convert it into the projects that will take Barbados into the future, every single Barbadian is going to be better off. They must not be the weak link in that chain, because their lives and jobs depend on it. The lives and the jobs of their children and their family members depend on it. We are all in this together. And I'm asking every Barbadian, heed the call. It is time for us to understand our interests and get up and do what we need to do. Be productive. Lower the absenteeism. Lower the sloppy work. Improve customer service. Be warm and caring to each other. Make each other's lives easier as we try to walk through this very, very difficult and challenging path. Now, we do not know what is going to be up ahead. We don't know what the future is going to hold for us as a country or as a region. But we must be ready for it. And I want to urge every Barbadian, stay the course. Stay the course. Now is not the time to shift. Now is the time to let us work together to move Barbados into the future. It will take all of us. All hands must be on deck. I'm obliged to you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Christchurch Central.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Speaker. I feel particularly energized this afternoon, but let me thank all members who have spoken in this debate, sir. It is not often that I would thank the Leader of the Opposition for his enthusiastic support of any bill that is brought here by the government, but I know he took some time to get there, but at least he acknowledged that there is no opposition to this particular initiative. But I really want to thank members on this side who spoke, because often the messages are not often carried as we would want them to. And as I indicated in my presentation, sir, we will be working with CAF to ensure that all of the relevant stakeholders are sensitized as to the opportunities that would become available to the country. And therefore, I just want to reiterate that this is now is really on us. And as the Honourable Member for St. James South indicated, we have established a certain momentum, Mr. Speaker. We want to accelerate that momentum, and to the extent that decisions have to be made, then we are confident that not just with the access to financing, but within the context of working with within Latin America and the Caribbean, sir, we hope that with financing, access to technologies would allow for Barbados to be capable of executing on its mandate, because oftentimes, sir, as has been the case, we've had the money, but we've had some issues certainly with the logistics and those other issues in actually being able to get timely access to technologies. So therefore, deepening our cooperation within Latin America is going to be particularly important moving forward. And one of the things that we will kick off this strengthening of our relationship is the idea of using Spanish as an opportunity, sir. And therefore, the language component with respect to being able to allow Barbadians to genuinely integrate and have conversations, to do deals, to build partnerships, to have exchanges, will be predicated on how do we reinforce the learning of Spanish, not for academic purposes, but certainly with respect for us being able to actually do business right here at home across Latin America that would allow us to be able to fully take advantage of these opportunities. I just want to make clear, sir, that as we enhance our participation in CAF, as a development bank, the issue as it relates to how retained earnings or dividends are usually distributed, sir. Currently, Barbados enjoys a grant as a Series C shareholder of $400,000 US dollars per year as a grant. Once we conclude our arrangements with this exercise, sir, that grant that is available to Barbados goes up to $1 million US dollars per year, which is critical because, as many of the ministers can attest, we've been able to enhance our cooperation on multiple fronts with CAF, and that will allow us to be able to do so. Second part of that, sir, is that with respect to the financing compensatory fund, which is used specifically to be able to help subsidize the rate at which governments may borrow over an 8-year period, that is how a part of the dividend is usually allocated. So as the country engages with CAF, there will be a subsidy with respect to any loans that we may enter into with CAF, which we will feel the clear benefits of as part of that. And then thirdly, as you know, banks require capital, and capital comes from its shareholders. And therefore, as part of the dividend payout, Barbados' contribution with respect to the capital of the bank to be maintained over time will be reimbursed, if you like, with respect to being able to ensure then that the dividends declared actually strengthen the capital base of the institution. And that is really how we will be able to see how dividends will be disbursed over the period of time. But I want to say, sir, that I believe that this is particularly instrumental for allowing us to move forward with confidence, sir. We will have closer relations with our neighbors in the south. We've already started with respect to being able to open up specific opportunities within the agricultural sector, sir, with the private sector, and certainly with the issues that we have been seeing with the disruption in the north with tariffs and a whole range of things. I believe that this equally allows us to not just focus on the acquisition of cheaper produce, but equally the logistics and financing of the logistical arrangements will allow us to be able to, the private sector, to be able to take advantage of this opportunity that we've brought to the chamber today. And so, sir, I promise not to be long, and therefore we will get on, sir, with the business of actually executing and implementing on this very important initiative. And as I said, the Ministry of Finance, working with the team from CAF here and Economic Affairs, will be able to roll out a series of stakeholder engagements. As the Honourable Member of St. James House indicated, we will deal with respect to government and the public service and how and what it will mean for them, whilst we do the same things there with respect to the private sector and individuals across the country. And so, sir, with those very few words, I'd like to move that this bill be read a second time.
The question is that this bill be read a second time. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
I beg to move that you do not leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill.
The question is that the Speaker do not leave the chair and the House resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
This Honourable House is now in committee.
Mr. Chairman, permission to call the clauses in sets, please.
Permission granted.
Clauses 1 through 8.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that clauses 1 through 8 stand par.
The question is that clauses 1 through 8 stand par. All honourable members in favour, say aye. Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
First schedule.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that the first schedule be the first schedule to the bill.
The question is that the first schedule be the first schedule to the bill. All honourable members in favour, say aye. Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Second schedule.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that the second schedule be the second schedule to the bill.
The question is that the second schedule be the second schedule to the bill. All honourable members in favour, say aye. Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Third schedule.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that the third schedule be the third schedule to the bill.
The question is that the third schedule be the third schedule to the bill. All honourable members in favour, say aye. Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I beg to move that you do now report to His Honour the Speaker the passing of one bill in committee.
The question is that I do now report to His Honour the Speaker the passing of one bill in committee. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. Honourable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Chairman of committees has reported the passing of one bill in committee.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be read a third time.
Question is that this bill be read a third time. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this bill be now passed and cited as the Development Bank for Latin America and the Caribbean Act 2025.
Question is that this bill be passed and so cited. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. This bill is passed and so cited.
Number 9.
Order number 9, sir, in the name of the Honourable Minister of Housing and Lands and Maintenance. To move the passage of resolution to approve in accordance with Section 5 of the Crown Lands Vesting and Disposal Act, Chapter 225, the vesting in the National Housing Corporation of a parcel of land, the property of the state, situated at River Bay in the parish of St. Lucie in this island, for sale to qualified tenants under the Tenantry Freehold Purchase Act, Chapter 239B, and for housing development.
Honourable Member for St. Michael West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This afternoon, I rise to move the resolution standing in my name, seeking the approval of this Honourable House to vest 12,266.6 square meters, just over 3 acres, of state land at River Bay, St. Lucie, in the National Housing Corporation for sale to qualified tenants and also for housing development. Sir, before I get to the substance of this resolution, I would like to recognize the honourable member from St. Lucie and his steadfast advocacy in this matter. I am therefore very thankful as my maiden submission as the Minister of Housing, Land and Maintenance to deliver the gift of land ownership to the good constituents of St. Lucie.
Yes.
Sir, this resolution is brought pursuant to the powers conferred on the minister by Section 51C of the Crown Lands Vesting and Disposal Act, and in furtherance of the objectives of the Tenantries Freehold Purchase Act. These two pieces of legislation form the backbone of our national effort to enfranchise Barbadians who have lived for generations in tenantries, often without the security of title. Now, we all have come here before speaking on this matter and stating the importance of title to Barbadians, of land ownership, of owning a piece of the rock, and what that can do for them in transforming their lives. The Tenantries Freehold Purchase Act was enacted in 1980 to allow tenants on plantation tenantries and non-plantation to purchase their house spots at a statutory price. Now, I would like to say that this forms the bedrock of this Labour Party in terms of positioning this party as a party of economic enfranchisement, sir. In 2001, the Act was amended to cap that price that non-plantation tenantries would pay $2.50 per square foot for lots up to 5,000 square feet. However, it did not stop there. It significantly provided for the government subsidizing the difference where the open market price is higher. Importantly, Cabinet's decision on May 21st, 1981, ensures that pensioners on government-owned tenantries receive their lots free of cost. Mr. Speaker, this legislation and its amendments form the anchor of this Labour Party. And the truth is that this provided the foundation for all of the members here. And we did not stop there. You'll recall that the Honourable Member from St. James Central introduced the Copyright Bill, which also enfranchises our people by giving them an asset worth for their creativity, sir. This is also an example of us continuing to do the good work. And I can go back. The National Vending Bill, enfranchise our vendors in legitimizing their trade, decriminalizing their efforts. They ain't gonna hide and peep out no more. This is another example of this Labour Party exemplifying dignity to our people. The story of River Bay is the story of many Barbadian communities. In 1986, the Ministry of Housing and Lands, as part of a World Bank-supported project, permitted families to occupy this land for residential purposes. By 1988, the ministry was made aware of persons residing there without formal title. So in 1993, we regularized this by giving them interim rents. Today, we have the opportunity to deliver on this, the promise of ownership. This is not just a matter of land. It is a matter of dignity, social justice, and empowering ordinary Barbadians, sir, to build wealth and provide stability for their families. If the Honourable Member for St. Michael East were to tell you of the days when his predecessor, Israel Lovell, traversed the roads of Westbury Road. I didn't know this story because Westbury Road is in my constituency. Teaching young black girls and boys to read. Tell me if I'm wrong. But he was peeping about. because he was a member of UNIA. Right? So he enfranchised young black boys and girls. So we stand on his shoulders, sir, because we ain't got to peep about. We are here with legitimacy, sir, enfranchising the people of this country through legislation. Mr. Speaker, it is against the backdrop of the global inequity that was detailed by the Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central as the reasoning for why we need to expand our options as it pertains to global finance options. We know that the World Bank and the IMF, through the State Department, have basically stated that the door is shut on any monies offered to small island developing states if it involves climate change. This is why we have to embrace collaboration, regional collaboration, and in housing too. We got to embrace innovative technologies in home building. Our brothers and sisters around the Caribbean are facing the same challenges. And you heard the Honourable Member from St. James Central talk about Hurricane Melissa and the devastating impacts that it has had on Jamaica. And we stand willing to help them in any way that we can. But it does signify the importance of the meeting of the minds, that we all can help each other, especially when it comes to the art of home building, sir. I am not turning back anyone that can help us to deliver affordable, dignified housing to our people using innovative building strategies, sir. Sir, to get to the technicalities of the bill, the land in question has been professionally surveyed and certified by Mr. Kevin Belgrave, land surveyor, in 2021. There are 21 lots, 10 are currently occupied and have been approved for sale under the Tenantries Freehold Purchase Act. Of these, 7 are pensioners. And as I said before, all girls. The Honourable Member from Christchurch West Central probably wishes that these were his constituents, that he could give them this gift. But this gift is not for you, sir. This gift is for the Honourable Member of St. Lucie to give. So of these 7 pensioners, who in accordance with the cabinet policy of the day, will receive their lots free of cost. So that warms my heart. That warms our heart. That is correct. The remaining 3 will purchase at the statutory price of $250 per square foot. The other 11 lots will be subdivided subject to planning permission for future residential use. Mr. Speaker, the NHC continues to work in concert with the Ministry of Housing and Lands and Maintenance to improve the lives of persons living in other tenantry areas. Recently, 28 conveyances were issued at Bath St. John. Presently, a major project is being executed at Six Men's St. Peter. The Six Men's Life Improvement Project will provide 70 households with land titled. The surveying is completed and the plans are being recorded. Recently, approval was granted for the compulsory acquisition of 17.2 acres of land at Parish Land, St. George, which I think is in the constituency of St. George North, for the public purpose of housing development. There are 118 lots at parish land, of which 101 lots are occupied, and 17 are either vacant or have only a foundation. The landowner, who is deceased now, has indicated that the land should be made available for use by those persons deemed to be underprivileged. The ministry would want to enfranchise the tenants in accordance with the wishes of the said landowner, and the compulsory acquisition of this land would allow for the sale of these lots to qualified tenants under the same Tenantries Freehold Purchase Act. Mr. Speaker, it is a gift that keeps giving. In addition, the Parkinson Business Center in Parkinson Field has been the home of many small businesses for many years. It was always the intention that the lands would be subdivided and that each of the tenants would become owners of individual lots. The subdivision has been completed, and one of the high priority items on the agenda is to complete the transfer of the title to these individual tenants. This will provide much needed security for them to obtain a loan to make improvements to the premises or as security for other ventures. This is one of the many low-hanging fruit that we have targeted in the ministry. And when I say low-hanging fruit, we don't have to build a brick here, sir. So I am focused on addressing, in addition to that, the transfer of title to persons occupying the housing units for more than 20 years, sir. We all have units here, housing areas here, that our constituents have asked us about this. And NHC is currently engaging in certifying housing units as per the requirement of the Act to facilitate transfer of title. This resolution is a key part of our broader commitment to provide housing solutions as set out in our manifesto. It complements but is distinct from other initiatives, sir. While these other initiatives focus on new construction and innovative building methods, today's resolution is about regularizing tenure and delivering title to those who have waited the longest. The ministry going forward must embrace the spirit of collaboration with other entities, utilizing technology, using innovative building techniques to build these resilient houses, sir. Let us not lose sight of why we are here, sir. The River Bay resolution is about correcting historical inequities and delivering justice to a specific group of Barbadians, many of them elderly, who have contributed to this country, contributed to their communities, and doing this for decades. Sir, I know the hour is late, and in conclusion, this resolution is not just a legal formality. It is a tangible step towards fulfilling our social contract with the people of Barbados. It is about giving them security, dignity, and an opportunity for them to have what they have earned in their life. As you no doubt are aware, Mr. Speaker, ordinarily, the transfer of lands to qualified tenants by the state would not need a resolution. However, because this area has the capacity to provide additional spots, hence the need for us to come to Parliament. I therefore ask my colleagues to support this measure. The people of River Bay, St. Lucie, can now finally own a piece of the rock. Sir, with those few words, I beg that this resolution now pass.
Honourable Member for St. Lucie.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me the greatest of pleasures to be able to rise to support this landmark resolution this evening. But let me first thank you, my colleagues, and my constituents, all who supported and expressed their condolences to my family and I, who recently had a death in the family, my older brother. I am grateful to you for your support, your well wishes, and your continued prayers. But if that was, and indeed it was, a sad moment, this moment that I take now to address this chamber is an extremely pleasurable one. I want to thank, because it's not about me, it is more about the residents of St. Lucie and particularly the community at River Bay, whom I have the distinct pleasure to represent. I am extremely grateful, and I wish to thank the Minister, the Honourable Member for St. Michael West, that in his first piece of major legislation in this chamber since he took up his new role, he could focus and ensure that the people of River Bay have a piece of the rock. What is interesting, and what I is now informed, is that 7 of those residents, senior citizens, will own their piece of the rock free. Minister, I thank you from the depths of my heart for that. I recall that when I left that ministry, upon the calling of the 2022 general election, we were at the stage of beginning work on this particular piece of legislation. The senior minister, now senior minister, the Honourable Member for Christchurch West, and I sought all across this country to enfranchise different persons in different communities. We recognize that the work can take a little longer than we anticipated, but I'm glad that I have a colleague that was able to complete the task. I want to thank as well the Honourable Minister, the Honourable Member for St. George South, for his effort in this regard as well. Now, there's a constituent and a member of, a resident of River Bay. And Minister, if there's one thing I want to ask you, give me the honor and the pleasure to deliver that letter, or those letters, that letter to a resident, Mr. Speaker, whom I address today as Mr. Goodrich. When I visited him when I first came to office and I was canvassing, this is something that he asked for and longed for, to be able to own a piece of the rock that he could bequeath, that he could leave for his grandchildren, or one of his grandchildren. And I'm sure that he would be more than happy, he would be excited, he would be ecstatic to be able to get this news and to be able to do just what the desire of his heart is. Mr. Speaker, sir, This government has always, or this party, has always looked out as a government, whenever in government, has always looked out for the well-being of the poor and dispossessed in this country. They have always looked out. They have always looked out to put things in place. This is not just talk, but it is action. You know, it is action being taken by the government to ensure that the people benefit. Regrettably, I was absent the last weekend, a couple of weekends ago from conference, but I understand that the theme was when labor leads, Beijing succeed. This is tantamount proof, because the people of River Bay, those 7 residents and the 10 of them up there will definitely succeed when this piece of legislation is passed here today. It will begin that process. And I hope that we will move swiftly. We will move swiftly to that point where their letters are delivered and they will know that the minister didn't just get up and talk about it. The member of parliament didn't just get up and talk about it, but they will have the proof and whatever else is needed to move forward from at this point into ownership of their piece of the rock. Mr. Speaker, sir, the opposition has suddenly found their voice. I mean, they're here tonight, this evening, as usual, speak and go, like grab and go that we see advertised in terms of when you're talking about food to eat and so on. You see that in different, as you travel, you realize that, yeah, there are establishments which offer you to just take up what you want and just go. You understand? And the opposition has adopted that attitude that they just speak and go and leave. Now, one of the points, the talking points today in Barbados, and particularly St. Lucie, and I want to take this opportunity that I have, Mr. Speaker, to briefly touch on that particular issue. We have had 4 years, even though it was left unaddressed, the issue of water in St. Lucie, groundwater to be precise, right? We have had that issue for a number of years, back down from 2015 and that time coming forward. It has taken this administration to come into office, that my constituency having been represented by 2 government ministers, 2 people who sat in the cabinet and did nothing for 42 years. Did absolutely nothing about the issue. I suppose they're giving us the opportunity, and we have grabbed the opportunity with both hands. I do not like the state of the water. That is not.
Honourable member, just connect it. You want to speak to it?
Yeah.
Connect it.
Yes, sir. Yes,
It has to be relevant. So to speak to it, it has to be relevant.
But you have to get proper running water.
Yeah, right. So I understand that. I appreciate that, but I'm saying connect it. Right. One thing I just saying connect it. To make it has to be made relevant. If you want to speak it, it has to be relevant to the issue. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, Mr.
Connect it, Honourable Member.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. In order for the people to enjoy life and to truly be happy and celebrate as they take up the possession or the offer to own their lots. There are a number of amenities that must be in place, and they must be able to enjoy those amenities, Mr. Speaker. One of those amenities is clean, running, proper water. And therefore, I will want to applaud the government for the steps it has taken and is taking in ensuring that that happens and that continues to happen. Regrettably though, Mr. Speaker, in the whole process of things, we have an opposition, and perhaps we have not operated at that level because we've always done things and we've always represented ourselves fairly as a party in office when we were in opposition. We've always done things that were not just relevant, but out of a clean sense of responsibility, a clear sense of responsibility to the people. Now, I mentioned that the issue of the water because it is necessary. What I want to say that is unfortunate, and sometimes you have to be careful what you say and even more careful what you do. I heard a statement, and you might have been watching, I heard a statement a few weeks ago coming from a public officer with respect to the water in St. Lucie, advice on the water. I distance myself from that statement. I distance myself and I stand firmly behind my constituents in relation to the problem of brown water. It must be fixed. And the good thing that this government has always done, this Labour Party administration, which I'm proud to belong to, has always set about fixing problems, not just talking about them and glossing over them, but fixing problems. It has taken longer than normal, but that was stated up front. And as I address this resolution today, I want to thank the government for seeking to address it. I also want to ask the public officer from the floor of this House to withdraw that comment with relation to the water being drinkable or to drink it. I ain't gonna drink brown water. None of us in here would do it. To withdraw that statement and to apologize to the people of St. Lucie for that comment. I'm sure that I don't think that there was any malice in his heart. Because that same officer is working hard on the as head of the mains replacement team to better the situation in St. Lucie. He's working hard. It is just a misstep. And I would ask him simply just to come, apologize, and let us move forward as he continues to work hard in this particular respect. It's a very tough task, Mr. Speaker. We all know it. But it's a task from which we will not shirk. We will not run away, Mr. Speaker. We cannot shirk. It is our responsibility as a government to work on the behalf of the people. There are many problems, there are issues to be dealt with across Barbados. There are many issues in St. Lucie, but one by one, we are addressing them. We are dealing with the brown water, we are dealing with coastal management, with the hurricane that came and damaged the west coast part of the constituency. We are dealing with all of these things, and I am managing and working with all the ministries and agencies in the government to ensure that the issues that present themselves that they are dealt with in a proper manner. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have labored for years even prior to becoming MP. I didn't just come to town. I ain't no Johnny come lately. I've been around for a long time, just like you, honorable member for St. Michael East. And you are the voice for your people in St. Michael East. I am the voice for St. Lucie, and I will speak on their behalf. It doesn't matter, Mr. Speaker, if it offends the government, and I'm not going to do things to offend the government, but I will speak candidly as the representative of the people. I will speak candidly to issues that rise up. We have a situation with roads, all these things. And this is testimony to the work that the government has been doing as you said. I don't come up and be up front and make public statements and so on, Mr. Speaker, for sure. My job is to ensure that the work is done. That is what a representative do, not get up like hot air and just say things. For so you have to ensure that the work is being done as you represent your constituents. And that is exactly, my voice will not be silent if there are issues that affect the people of St. Lucie and the issues go unaddressed. I have given, and I will continue to give the government the space to deal, because I know resources have to be found, and resources had to be found to start this project. I know resources have to be found, and the government has found the resources. And the continue to work on them, as you heard the honorable member for Christchurch East Central mention today, to correct the problem of water. And I want to assure the people, whether they be of Crab Hill, we have another issue there which needs to be addressed. I've spoken to the Honourable Minister of Transport and Works today and asked that some kind of priority be given to that issue with the roads in Crab Hill to be reinstated. That is the problem. Another problem that we have to deal with. We have to ensure that we keep eyes on these agencies when we are planning projects, that the full cost of the project is included at the outset, so that you won't start a project and then scrambling for money to complete it. So if you laying new water mains, then you have to ensure that there's funds there to reinstate the roads, and reinstate the roads properly, that the more traveling public and the people in the community are not inconvenienced for such a long period of time. And those are the things that I have been dealing with, Mr. Speaker. And as I come to support this resolution wholeheartedly, I again want to thank on behalf of the people of St. Lucie, and in particular the people of River Bay, to the minister and the ministers before him, who would have done what they had to do to ensure that we reach this point today. And I assure the people of St. Lucie that better days are coming. Jimmy Cliff saying better days are coming. By and by, better days are coming. With me at the helm, better days are coming for the people of St. Lucie. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Honourable member for Christchurch West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I don't intend to detain the House for very, very long. But I could not, in all honesty, let this resolution go by without saying a few words. Let me start by saying that when I was Minister of Housing, myself and the member for St. Lucie, together with all the officials, visited River Bay. And we met with Mr. Greenidge that you spoke about. Mr. Goodridge, sorry, that you spoke about. And I too heard Mr. Goodridge make it very, very clear to us all the officials, all the two ministers that were there. Do not let his eyes close and this land not belong to him after the decades that he had lived on that land. And we started that process. My only regret, Mr. Speaker, is that it takes so long to get these things done, to get this vested. And I support this resolution absolutely. It is a good and proper thing to do for people that have spent decades on land, for that land to eventually be theirs. And this gives an opportunity not only for 10 house spots, 10 people with house spots there, but also with another 11 vacant lots, so that those people will get an opportunity to, those that are currently have houses on, to get houses on their, to get those lots, and vacant lots, an opportunity for the National Housing Corporation to get an additional 11 people could be empowered to get house spots as well. So 21 house spots in total. And I want to make it clear also to the member for St. Lucie that even although I am no longer the Minister of Housing, I have been tracking this process and pushing all the way through to make sure that we get this matter to conclusion. As Senior Minister, I have been pushing first the member for St. George South and now the member for St. Philip West so that we can get to this point today. So St. Michael West to get to this point today. But go further, because not only are we on track for the vesting for the whole lot, but, Mr. Speaker, we have got the planning permission before the planning department to do the subdivision for the 21 lots too. So we're not waiting for a series track. We are working in parallel to get the subdivision done as well as to get the vesting done. So that as soon as we can get this vesting matter completed, subdivision will be following. And I anticipate that the planning department will in haste be able to get that permission for the subdivision as well. So that in short order, vesting completed, subdivision completed, opportunity for those 10 people to get their house spots and to get good title. This is why we have come to govern in this country. This is why we are here, to give voice for those that do not have a voice for themselves. This is not about personal enhancement and publicity and fame. That's not what we come to this office for. We come to this office to help that person out there, the salt of the earth, that work hard to develop this country, whose shoulders we stand on every single day. The people that pay for education, the people that pay to develop this country, them and those before. That is why we are here. And that is why I have made sure I can see him in my mind's eye now. I can see the tears in his eyes. I can see how important it was for him. And I thank my colleagues for recognizing how important this is. Enfranchising our people that work hard, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after day. Those people must get benefits. And that is why this government has been given 30 Love once, 30 Love twice, and 2 singles. That is why. Clean slate to make sure we do what is right for the people of Barbados. This is what we are doing. We're doing right for the people of Barbados. Here, tune, Mr. Speaker. This is a proper resolution for people in St. Lucie. I'm obliged.
Honourable Member St. Philip North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Just a small intervention. First of all, I want to start by congratulating the honourable member who brought the resolutions. Congratulations on a speech well done for your maiden speech, and congratulations on your inheriting the ministry. I can only agree with everybody else in this room that the resolution is worthwhile, meaningful to most, probably for the rest of their lives, so I can only support it. Just a few things I want to thank as well, not necessarily the present minister, but those who preceded him. One of them, I'm not saying no, but the other two are in front of me, for allowing my constituents the chance to own homes. Not enough yet, but we'll work on that. Homes in areas like Clifton, River, Parish Land. Parish Land I'm not particularly proud of because I knew the state of the homes. But Honourable Mr. Speaker, I am between a rock and a hard place in terms of if to insult them or not. If I would offend somebody, especially you, Mr. Speaker, after not much longer than a week ago, it was a little confusing. So I play it safe and not offend, so I will veer away from that topic for a little bit, just for a little while. Mr. Speaker, I want to, while I am fairly happy with the resolution of the National Housing Corporation, I want here now to represent my constituents, as I often do, because that's my job, on a few issues that have been brought to me in the last week or two by a few of my constituents. This might be a good place to talk about it. One of the main ones I am hearing is the accessibility of the constituents to the National Housing Corporation. Many, as everybody in here will tell you, many have applied for housing solutions. Many have heard nothing. Many have called on several occasions, can't reach anybody, and they come to me or us. Many are very confused on the process because you go to the National Housing Corporation and you're told you cannot apply for a house unless the member of parliament, your member of parliament, writes a letter and approves it, which is utter nonsense because I don't see why you should be affiliated with a political party to get a home. I have issues with that, and I've spoken on that several times, on several occasions, in several fora. Accessibility in terms of getting your homes fixed. I have a few constituents, not many, to be honest. One in particular I'm thinking of who was lucky enough to purchase, by mortgage, purchase a home in River. Her home is deteriorating. The roof is going to the dogs or the birds. And the truth is she has tried to reach out. I have tried to reach out through letters to have somebody to simply look at the house. She's within the, at least she used to be, up to the time the letters were written, she was in the 3-year period for complaints, and we can't find nobody to address it while the roof is deteriorating. I will bring that to the current minister. I apologize, I give a little trouble sometimes. The current minister to see if we can get some resolution. This person I spoke of to the last minister with one of the, what we call the Chinese homes, she has not seen anybody come back. She was asked to move out of the home so that they can fix it, and since then nobody has come. We have to bear these people in mind. Not yet. She was smart enough not to move out. One of the almost last things that is of great concern, especially to me, now that we're speaking about mental health and the damages of mental health and educating the public on what it means. I have a constituent. I remember a couple of years I passed his home, which NHC was building quite happily, very proud. But then I have to say, did not pass back urgently. But another constituent called and said the house had been halfway done and left. When I called the NHC, the excuse given to me, the guy has mental health issues, he gave a little trouble and then going back to fix the man's house. Meanwhile, the man is living in a garage. In this age of stress and mental health issues, we cannot afford to let this happen. And I am appealing. I don't even want to say the minister. to the members of housing, the people responsible, to please look into it for me. I can give you the names when I'm done. The Tenantry Freehold Act is a wonderful thing, probably one of the best initiatives to come out of politics in I don't know however long. But I have three constituents in particular, I guess more will come into the woodwork, who have been trying to get to national housing to figure out, they got permission to purchase the land from the owners and their lawyer, but they can get nowhere after, we think, the same 3 years to purchase their properties. These are properties their grandmothers grew up on. These are things we need help with, and I have to bring it to the House because this is the best place. The resolution is almost like a calling program, where if you're calling, you get stuff done. And they're really afraid of you losing the chances for owning the land. Nowhere to go, people don't have money that kind of way. And squatters exist not only in the constituency of the Honourable members in St. Michael East, but one or two in mine. I have one in particular. Lovely lady, works every day, 2 beautiful children, bright children at the top schools in the island, what we call the top schools, and she's squatting on a piece of land. No Wi-Fi for study. Borrowing electricity from the neighbor. Well, you can't give it back, so taking electricity from the neighbor, taking water from the neighbor. We cannot figure out who owns the land. I think the National Housing Corporation has a responsibility. She has to pay a lawyer now thousands of dollars. You know how lawyers go. Thousands of dollars to figure out how she will purchase this land. I think this is one of the roles, should be one of the roles of the NHC, where you can actually help constituents in that way. They really don't have the money to find who owns it. They don't have the money to figure out the legal process to get to own it. And I think that should be one of the give backs of the, I want another word, but it's not coming, of the National Housing Corporation to help these people that are really willing to rent to own. I have several constituents who are in gainful jobs, currently paying rent, some upwards of $800 a month. And I told about the NHC, they don't qualify for a mortgage. We need to do more rent-to-own properties. Most of us, well, I rent mine because I pay an institution, I pay back an institution. So in essence, that's the same thing. Give these people a chance. Everybody cannot afford to get mortgages. A lot of these people are single women who really don't have a partner to sign up for the mortgage with them. These people need help in all reality. It's our culture to own land that has been sewn into our brains from birth, that you have to own a piece of the rock. But the reality is, if we cannot provide all the houses, which we can't realistically, people need help with finding places to rent. A lot of the times, funny enough, in my situation, in my constituency, where people are looking for homes, if you check a little deeper, it's a social issue where they just don't get along with a family member. Sometimes 2 people in the house, but they want to own their own home because they're not agreeing with mommy, they're not agreeing with daddy, brother giving trouble, and then those kind of things. I think we need to, apart from recommending housing solutions to everybody, because everybody doesn't want to own a house. If I did not have somebody to leave it to, I would rent forever. You don't have much to do if you rent forever. The landlord takes care of everything. I think as a government, as social services, we have the ministry. We need to get into some of these sort of social situations for conflict resolution. It's just a thought I had in sitting here. It cuts down on the need for housing. It helps people resolve their problems. Everybody cannot rent. These are some of the things I'm thinking of. So increase the rent to own. I don't have a lot more to say. I will behave myself today. I really didn't mean to, but I will. And with that, I support the resolution. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable Member Essential.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My intervention will be brief. Let me first indicate, sir, that it is not often that you get to witness a schoolmate deliver a wonderful speech, the first time with his portfolio, so I want to congratulate him for piloting this resolution this afternoon. Let me just follow on very quickly from what the Honourable Member for St. Philip North just raised. One of the reforms that we have put in place with respect to the NHC is the transition to helping people with estate planning issues, as you have raised. And so, whilst I know that the new minister is, well, the minister is new in the portfolio, that is part of how we see Barbadians getting access to some of those land-related issues, because as we are conveying these lands under the Tenantry Freehold Purchase Act, we really do need to do a better job of sensitizing owners and descendants, as you would know, Mr. Speaker, with respect to the issues that will arise with the ownership of land. And therefore, that educational component, if you like, we feel that the NHC is well placed to be able to facilitate such that people can actively exercise their options financially, because the title deeds as conveyed will now be able to unlock opportunities for potential investment, unlocking access to credit, so that this piece of the rock, as the Honourable Member indicated, now becomes valuable to be able to sustain and generate wealth within the family. So therefore, the issues around broader estate planning, I think, is important for NHC to be able to just, not just for these specific tenants, but I think as important for all landowners in Barbados who, once they avail themselves of that education, will then be able to, I think, secure a better future for their families. As the resolution is related to St. Lucie, I remember as a boy, sir, doing many excursions with the Member of Parliament for St. Michael West Central at the time, Mr. Vic Johnson, sir, visiting River Bay as a little boy on many of those excursions. And whilst one can imagine the beauty of that space and understanding that the potential, sir, the potential for these families to realize, the potential of those families to realize the long-term financial future really is within the context of the fact that it is a special part of Barbados, sir, and therefore I would want to see that they are well advised as to the type of things that they could possibly do with respect to these lands. And I know that there are some additional lands that are to be put into housing that I would like to see not just people of St. Lucie, but certainly all Barbadians be able to have access to the type of information, the type of structures that will best withstand certainly the north swell, let's say the north swells, but the sea breeze and stuff that is there, because as we have given a commitment to have climate resilient housing, then obviously the type of materials to ensure that any investment that you make within that space, that they last the longest possible, such that any monies that these families will expend going forward will actually redound to their long-term financial benefit. And so I think these are important things that we now have to make sure as government that we are able to get people to understand and appreciate that the decisions that they will make going forward will make or break, if you like, sir, with respect to the support of their families. The Honourable Member for St. Lucie, in his certainly his support of this resolution, spoke to the fact that this is a government that continues to face issues and to fix them, sir. And I can give the Honourable Member and his constituents the assurance that the monies to repair the roads in Crab Hill, the Ministry of Finance has made those monies available, and therefore the MTW should be in a position to start those road repairs urgently. And I take the point, sir, as we had indicated in the budget earlier this year, that the Water Authority was going to undertake an aggressive program with respect to mains replacement in St. Lucie specifically, but there is a strategic mains replacement program that really needs to happen across the country. And therefore, as the authority attempts to address what is clearly a critical issue in the north, particularly in St. Lucie, at this time, there are other parts of the country that the water infrastructure is equally stressed. And therefore, the matching of not just priority, but in relation to where next is the most strategic place to be able to help replace mains in a strategic way is part of the planning planning phase, and therefore what persons are experiencing in St. Lucie is part of effectively not in relation to the brown water, but in relation to the disruption and the condition of the roads, unacceptable, and therefore we are putting the financing to be able to help repair that as quickly as possible. But given that mains have to be replaced, Mr. Speaker, and let me remind the country that the mains were put down when the British had an empire and resources from which they could draw, and there was no opportunity for anybody to dispute or raise any issues. The reality is that there will be disruption as part of this process, and the government will work to minimize the disruption as much as it can, given the exigencies with respect to the competing priorities that we will face from time to time. But be that as it may, sir, at the earliest opportunity, we always seek to be able to address that which we know needs to be addressed. And therefore, having reached this stage, we are confident that once the mains can be completely replaced and the operational issues that are being faced can be addressed, that not just the delivery of quality water, but that the roads will be reinstated, sir, and that the disruption that has been caused by this specific intervention will be no more. And I hope that the people of St. Lucie would appreciate that it does take some inconvenience, and in order to be able to repair and to repair issues that have been long-standing in the country. And so I say to the rest of the country that as the Barbados Water Authority maps out where it needs to replace mains strategically, that as that is being done, the government will continue to work to make sure that any disruption is minimized as much as possible, but we cannot guarantee, sir, that there will not be disruption in relation to this particular matter. But I really just want to say, sir, that the Tenantries Freehold Purchase Act is one of the most revolutionary pieces of legislation in terms of land transformation in this hemisphere. It serves as an example as to how people can be enfranchised, and therefore, let me congratulate the minister and his team for being able to ensure that, yes, a few more Barbadians can get a piece of the rock, and every day we get up to make sure that Barbadians in this country can have a firmer connection with respect to their link to Barbados. And I know that the minister will continue to work with his team to ensure then that the necessary sensitization around the responsibility of ownership with respect to land and the broader estate planning issues, that we can help to sensitize Barbadians as to what this truly means to own a piece of the rock, such that the full expression and the full innovation that we know can be brought to bear to help families generate wealth and pass from one generation to the next, sir, is particularly important. And therefore, sir, I support this resolution. I say to the people of St. Lucie, the government is in it to win it, sir, because we know that we have to make sure that not just in St. Lucie, but across the country, that the issues related to age infrastructure, we continue to face and find the financing for. And as we get the financing together, as we get the supplies and materials and access to the technologies to coincide with that, then we know that we would be able to deliver better services to our public, to citizens, and therefore honor the fact that you've given us a tremendous mandate to deliver, and we just need time to be able to ensure then that those things that you've asked us to do, that we can do and do to the best possible standard. And with those very few words, sir, I'm obliged to you.
Honourable Member for St. Michael East.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity once more to make a contribution in this honorable assembly. I am extremely proud of the honorable member, was that we call St. Michael's West. St. Michael's West. This member brings back important memories, and I want to congratulate him for the manner, both the historical and philosophical justifications for why this resolution is so significant. For me, knowing that the state has set about to provide forms of reparatory justice to the black people in this country is significant to me and to you, and I'm extremely proud to know that you are the one who has actually introduced this paradigm shift in the politics and the ownership of land, where the state is giving the land to people who pay their dues in this society over the years. I am not surprised of the heart and the passionate expressions by the honorable member, for he is the grandson of Alexandria Gibbs. And for those who don't know him, his grandmother was in the forefront in the first half of the 20th century. His great-grandmother, speaking and advocating for the transformation of the economy, so that those people who contributed to it would have been rewarded with proper housing. She spoke about poverty, and she also established, sir, an educational institution. She did not go to Cave Hill or Harrison College or Combermere. She never boasts about that. But she set up a school, which she was not even privileged to be exposed to primary education, not just secondary or tertiary education. But she understood the importance of education, and she understood the importance of homeless people who were enslaved and living on the plantations across Barbados, having the opportunity to be able to enjoy a good quality of life. And I believe that he understands, just like his great-grandmother did, that he has a responsibility to the people of Barbados, the poor people of Barbados. I'm not going to generalize, I don't generalize the poor people of Barbados. And I want people to be able to appreciate the significance of what he has done. Sir, St. Lucie, the voices of the people of St. Lucie was known to be very rich. And you heard the honorable member spoke about Israel Lovell, as I said, worked very close with the voices that your great-grandmother worked with. The advocates at the time in the UNIA, the Marcus Garvey movement, and St. Lucie had the most units, and the units that survive much longer than the other UNIA agencies across Barbados. And I really believe that this effort is to award those people who have been struggling, not just for the transformation of people in St. Lucie, but for the transformation of the lives of the people across Barbados who work hard. I want to add a few more elements to the program on housing. The Tenantry Freehold Purchase Act was good, but you actually add another social arm to it, because we are using it now, not only to acquire land, to sell it to low-income people, or for housings, for people who could rent the housing and go on to own the housing. But I will hope that the model which you place on the table in these chambers today, table metaphorically in these chambers today, that model will be replicated in the constituency of St. Michael's East. Sir, I have a whole set of land.
Only you, sir? I remember only you in St. Michael East.
St. Michael's East.
I'm just asking if only you in St. Michael East, I remember.
I've been fortunate to allow it to extend to the western side as well, sir, which would...
So you have allowed it to extend. You have vested authority in yourself to allow it to extend.
Yes,
legally or illegally, honorable member?
But well, we don't want to debate that today, but both of us have to respond to the demands of the people in our constituency, because if the state leaves them homeless, then the only means that they can use in order to be able to enjoy housing is what is pejoratively described as squatting. And both in East and your constituency, sir, we have to be wrestling every day. And the people can't be wrong. They must live somewhere. And the state is also moving, and swiftly too. There were lots of challenges, but we are also moving to make that adjustment that is so necessary in order to facilitate hundreds of people across St. Michael's. I am extremely pleased, sir, and I know this is related to housing as well, because it's about potable water, sir. They are now extending water lines within the last 48 hours across St. Michael's East, and it will be extended down to the western side as well.
No, not yet. They're coming in next week, I have been told.
Oh, well.
Next week
but
to 2 weeks.
You just have 3 more working days, and then we'll be checking you by Monday morning. But we're now extending water lines across, and I want to thank especially senior minister in the Prime Minister's office, who spoke today on this particular matter, for working in order to make the establishing of this kind of social service across the entire area where people were long in need for it. So people there can also, but that land that we are making the adjustments on is also plantation land. And I believe that that land is also in the hands of the government of Barbados, just like the Clico lands. And I think on the eve of an important historic date, it'd be well thought about, sir, to see if what the honourable member described from St. Michael's West described as a gift, that we can also extend those gifts to the people of the Bell, because that land, the people in the Bell worked on for centuries. It was the land in the hands of the royalty of the British. And just like the lots that were transferred in St. Lucie, I'll be very happy if the government can extend that land was there all along. I don't believe that they were paying any land tax, so there's no revenue coming into government. And if the government can just transfer the land now to the persons who are at present occupying the specific space and regulate whatever the legal requirements for the transfer of ownership, the government can do that, sir, without charging anyone for the land that they're now living on. And I think that I am asking and pleading that something like this could occur in St. Michael's East as well. I don't think that it's too hard for the ministers to be able to etch that kind of significant mark in his political life on the pages of history, for taking the lead and making that kind of transformation. And I would be also extremely grateful for you. I think you have a social conscience and you understand well how pleasing it would be to satisfy all the people in that geography. And let them know that they can have ownership. Now, I know that this might not be directly related, but those people are extremely poor. I would hope that we can persuade the minister who is responsible as a result of transferring the ownership to these poor people, that we can persuade the minister who is responsible for the connection of the water lines. Because one of the big problems, I don't know how a modern government, you could ask people to pay $1,000 in order to connect water services. No, not a socialist, not a government with a social conscience, a socialist government, a social democratic government. So I'm hoping that we can have discussions on that. And just like governments grant concessions to certain people in this society, I will hope that government can grant such a concession by connecting the lines onto the individual houses within the Bell area without having to face the burden or the encumbrance of placing a $1,000 on people who are unemployed or even working for or underemployed in the circumstances. So I'm glad to see the indication that we're thinking about that, and I hope that we can resolve it. I don't want to speak much. I think that what has been said by the minister that is responsible for this resolution this morning is enough for all of us. And I know my colleague here from St. Andrew, he wants me to finish speaking as soon as possible. He has some duties. He has some important duties in the constituency that he wants to get there and apply himself to. So I want to thank all who actually gave support to this important resolution today.
Honourable for St. Michael West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to thank all honorable members for their contribution given today. I would have to say, in wrapping up, that when we come here to this place, even when I was speaking on this bill, and as the minister responsible for housing, I speak on a macro level. So I said that there are 10 lots, and 7 of which will be given to those owners who are of old age, pensionable age. But it's extremely heartwarming to hear the honorable member from St. Lucie speak about Mr. Goodridge, because what that does, it humanizes the bill. Something that I am not necessarily tethered to, but you are. And that is why we come here to this place, to help to empower people. And as the honorable member from St. Michael East said, this is a form of social justice for these people. And it's quite remarkable that we are utilizing a piece of legislation that was 45 years old November 1st. Can you imagine that? A tool of empowerment that this great Labour Party gave to the people of this country. The gift that keeps giving. It is the foundation, and I would say at the conference when we talk about when Labour leads, the people succeed, this is what, Bajans succeed. This is what we are talking about. The bedrock foundations of this great Labour Party. I am encouraged by the comments by Senior Minister responsible for infrastructure, and I look forward to working with you to be able to fast track this process. I am very thankful to stand shoulder to shoulder with my colleagues, that we can work together to be able to make sure that what we do here translates into action on the ground, and that these people, as the honorable member from St. Lucie said, can get their letters. And I stand here with you to empower our citizens. And I would say all of us in here have a social conscience. And we are cognizant of what our people are going through. And what we do here is all geared towards helping them enrich and empower their lives. In regards to the honorable member from St. Philip North, I think that the honorable member from Christchurch East Central said it well. The Cabinet of Barbados has determined that the NHC will be streamlined. It will no longer be involved in actively building, but will concentrate on surveying. We are going to hopefully get more surveyors that we can survey more tenantry, non-plantation and plantation lands, so that we can do more of this type of legislation in here. In addition to that, the honorable member from Christchurch East Central said that we need to get more into estate planning. And these are some of the things that we're going to do at NHC to be able to offer the service that the people of this country deserve, not only just for future developments, but we cannot forget the people in our many estates and the issues that they may have. So yes, our communication there has to improve. So, Mr. Speaker, I'm very happy to be able to deliver this to the people of St. Lucie. And with those few words, I ask that this resolution do pass.
The question is that this resolution do now pass. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This resolution stands passed.
Mr. Speaker, we've now come to the end of our business for today's sitting. I beg to move that we do adjourn until Tuesday, 18th of November.
Question is that this honorable chamber be adjourned
At
until
10 in the morning.
that this honorable chamber be adjourned until Tuesday, the 18th day of November at 10 a.m. in the forenoon. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This honorable chamber stands adjourned until Tuesday, the 18th day of November, 2025 at 10 a.m. in the forenoon.